I'm stuck! I can't breathe! Daddy, where are you?"
A 5-year-old girl's screams tore through the dust and concrete. 43 adults stood on the sidewalk. Nobody moved. The building was still shifting. Another collapse could happen any second. Then, a 7-year-old boy, 48 pounds, empty stomach, cardboard stuffed in his torn sneakers because the soles had holes, dropped to his knees and started crawling into the rubble. No tools, no help, just 2 scraped hands and a voice that cut through the chaos. "I'm coming. Keep talking to me. Don't stop." He didn't know she was the daughter of the most feared street racer in California. He didn't know that 72 hours later, 600 racing crews would shut down an entire city block for him. And he didn't know that every single one of them would be crying. Before we begin, subscribe to this channel and follow this story all the way to the end. Comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story traveled. Marcus Chen stood on his toes at the Dollar General counter and pushed forward a loaf of white bread and a jar of peanut butter. The woman behind the register looked at him, then looked away fast. That's what people did when they saw something that made them uncomfortable but didn't want to deal with it. Marcus smoothed out a $5 bill with both hands. It was the only money in the house. He'd found it folded inside a library book last week and told Nana Lily right away because that's what you do. You don't keep what isn't yours. "That everything?" the woman asked, without making eye contact. "Yes, ma'am." She rang it up. $4.87. Marcus collected his 13 cents change and picked up the plastic bag. The handles were thin. He'd have to walk carefully or they'd break before he got home. Outside, the August heat hit him like opening an oven door. 108 degrees. Marcus walked fast anyway. 4 blocks to the trailer park. He counted them every time. 4 there, 4 back. Same route, same cracks in the sidewalk, same stray dog sleeping under the same parked car. Nobody looked at him. Not the man opening the laundromat. Not the woman watering her dead lawn. Not the teenagers on the porch scrolling their phones. Marcus had figured out a long time ago that being small and poor made you invisible. People's eyes just slid right past you like you were part of the sidewalk. He didn't mind most days. Invisible meant safe. Invisible meant nobody bothered you. But sometimes, late at night, when Nana Lily was coughing in the next room and he was trying not to hear it, Marcus wondered what it would feel like to be seen. Really seen. Not pitied or ignored. Just seen. The trailer was Unit 9 at Riverside Mobile Home Park. 46 homes baking under the California sun, most rusted, most leaning slightly like tired old men who'd given up trying to stand straight. Marcus pushed open the screen door. "Nana, I got the bread." Lily Chen sat at the kitchen table with her reading glasses on, staring at a piece of paper. She was 66 years old, white hair pulled back tight, thin arms, knees that popped every time she stood up. She worked cleaning rooms at the Riverside Motor Lodge from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. Then she stocked shelves at the grocery store from 4 until 9, 5 days a week, sometimes 6. She didn't look up when Marcus came in. "Nana?" "I got the bread and the peanut butter. There's 13 cents change." Lily took off her glasses and rubbed her eyes. "Put it on the counter, baby." Marcus set the bag down and walked closer. The paper had numbers on it. Lots of numbers. At the bottom, one number was circled in red pen. $214. "What's that?" "Nothing you need to worry about." "Is it a bill?" Lily looked at him. She tried to smile. It didn't work. "It's the electric bill. It's fine. I'll handle it." "How much do we have?" "Ethan Michael." She stopped herself. Wrong name. That happened sometimes when she was tired. Marcus Michael Chen. I said I'll handle it. He didn't push. When Nana Lily used his middle name, the conversation was over. But he'd seen the number, $214. And he knew there was $47 in the jar on top of the refrigerator because he'd counted it yesterday when she wasn't looking. The math didn't work. It never did. Marcus made 2 peanut butter sandwiches, one for him, one for Nana Lily. He poured 2 glasses of water from the tap. They sat at the table together, eating in silence, while the box fan pushed hot air from one side of the trailer to the other. "How's your cough?" Marcus asked. "Better." It wasn't better. He'd heard her at 3 in the morning. Deep, wet coughs that went on until he pressed his pillow over his head, because listening to it made his chest hurt. She looked like a regular person. Lily reached across the table and took Marcus's hand. Her fingers were rough and dry from cleaning chemicals. "She was a regular person, sweetheart. She was my daughter. She was smart, and she laughed loud, and she loved music. Things just went sideways. Because of drugs." Lily flinched. "Who told you that?" "Nobody told me. I'm 7, not stupid. Kids at school talk. I heard Mrs. Patterson tell the librarian that my mama was on something." Lily squeezed his hand hard. "Listen to me. Whatever happened to your mama doesn't say anything about who you are. You hear me? You are not her mistakes. You are you. And you are the best thing that ever happened to me." Marcus squeezed back. "I know, Nana." "Do you? Because I need you to really know it." "I know it." Lily held his gaze for a long moment. Then she let go and picked up her sandwich. "Eat your lunch, and stay out from under my bed." After lunch, Marcus went outside and sat on the metal steps. The heat was so thick it felt like a blanket you couldn't take off. He picked up a stick and started drawing in the dirt. A car. Not just any car. A sleek race car with smooth lines and a low profile. The same car he drew every single day. He'd wanted to ride in a real race car for as long as he could remember. Not to drive it, just to sit in one. To feel what it was like to go that fast. To understand what it meant to move through the world like you owned it, instead of like you were trying not to be noticed. He finished the drawing and stared at it. Then he wiped it away with his shoe. Things you draw in the dirt don't last. That night, Nana Lily came home at 9:30. Marcus was in bed, but not asleep. He heard her keys in the lock, her slow footsteps, the creak of the chair as she sat down at the kitchen table. Then the coughing started, deep and rough, going on for almost 2 minutes. Marcus got out of bed and walked to the kitchen. "Nana." She waved him off, still coughing. He got her a glass of water and stood there until she drank it. "I'm fine," she said when she could talk. "Go back to bed. You need to see a doctor. I need to pay the electric bill. I need to buy groceries. I need to make sure you have shoes that fit before school starts. The doctor can wait." "What if it can't?" Lily looked at him. For just a second, something crossed her face. Fear. Real fear. Not for herself, for him. What happens to a 7-year-old boy if the only person taking care of him can't do it anymore? She pushed the fear down fast. "Marcus, I have been on this earth 66 years. I have survived things you don't even know about. A little cough is not going to take me out. Now go to sleep." He went back to bed. He lay there in the dark, listening to the fan and the trucks on the freeway, and Nana Lily's breathing through the thin wall. When she started coughing again, he pulled the pillow over his head and prayed. He wasn't sure who he was praying to. The pastor at the church talked about God like God was a person you could talk to. Marcus had tried talking to God before. God didn't answer. But Marcus figured it couldn't hurt to keep trying. "Please don't take my Nana," he whispered into the pillow. "She's all I got." Tuesday morning, August 22nd. Marcus woke up at 6 o'clock. His body didn't need an alarm. When routine is all you have, your body learns rhythm. He pulled on his cleanest shirt, blue with a small hole near the hem, and his shorts, and his sneakers with the cardboard stuffed in the toes. He drank water from the tap and ate the last piece of bread with a thin scrape of peanut butter. Nana Lily had already left for the motel. She'd left a note on the table in her careful handwriting. "Soup kitchen opens at 7 on 5th and Oak. Go eat a real breakfast. I love you, Nana." Marcus folded the note and put it in his pocket. He kept all her notes. He had 11 of them in a shoebox under his bed. His own shoebox. Different from hers. He locked the trailer door and started walking. 4 blocks to the main road, then 6 blocks east to the soup kitchen. Past the auto parts store. Past the laundromat. Past the empty lot with the abandoned couch. The morning was already hot. By noon, it would be over 110. Marcus could feel the heat rising through the soles of his worn-out shoes. He walked fast. Not because he was in a hurry, because standing still in this heat felt like standing inside an oven. He got to the soup kitchen at 6:40. There was already a line. He counted the heads. 19 people ahead of him. Good. That meant he'd eat. The woman in front of him was muttering to herself, rocking back and forth. Marcus didn't stare. Everyone out here carried something heavy. Some carried it where you could see. Some carried it deep down where nobody could reach. At 7 sharp, the doors opened. The line moved. Marcus grabbed a tray. An old man with a gray beard scooped scrambled eggs onto his plate. A younger woman added toast and a little cup of grape jelly. Someone poured orange juice into a paper cup. Marcus found a seat at a long table near the back. He ate slowly. The eggs were warm and soft. The toast was a little burned on the edges. The juice was the powdered kind, too sweet, but cold. It was the best meal he'd had in 3 days. He was grateful for every bite. Around him, people ate in silence or whispered to the person next to them. A radio on the counter played the morning news, weather report, traffic update, something about the city budget. Marcus finished his eggs and used the last piece of toast to wipe the plate clean. He was about to stand up when the floor moved. Not like a truck passing by, not like the small vibrations he was used to. This was different. This was violent. The entire building lurched sideways, like something massive had slammed into it from underground. Marcus grabbed the edge of the table. The lights flickered. The radio fell off the counter and smashed. A woman screamed. Ceiling tiles crashed down, raining dust and debris. The windows didn't just crack, they exploded inward, spraying glass across the room in a hail of sharp fragments. "Get under the tables!" someone shouted. Marcus dove to the floor and covered his head with his arms. The shaking was so violent, the table above him bounced and shifted. He could feel it in his teeth, in his bones, in his stomach. The world was tearing itself apart. It lasted 40 seconds, maybe a minute. Time bent and stretched until it didn't mean anything. Then it stopped. The silence afterward was worse than the noise. Dust hung in the air so thick Marcus could taste it. Then came the sounds. Crying, moaning. Someone calling for help somewhere outside. A car alarm screaming. The hiss of a broken water pipe. Marcus crawled out from under the table. His hands were shaking. His heart was beating so fast it hurt. He stood up and looked around. The soup kitchen was destroyed. Tables overturned, food splattered on the walls. People bleeding from cuts, stumbling, confused. He walked through the broken window frame and stepped out onto the street. The world outside was wrong. A traffic light had fallen over and lay across the hood of a car. A fire hydrant was gushing water into the gutter. Cracks ran through the asphalt like black veins. Smoke rose from somewhere a few blocks away, thick and dark against the blue sky. People were everywhere, running, screaming, standing still and staring at nothing. A man sat on the curb with blood running down his face. His mouth was open, but no sound was coming out. Marcus started walking. Not toward the trailer park, not away from the damage. Toward it. His feet just moved. Something pulled him forward. Something he couldn't name and didn't try to understand. 2 blocks ahead, he saw it. A building had collapsed, not all the way, but enough. The front wall had folded inward and pulled the roof down with it. Bricks and concrete and twisted metal beams lay in a massive pile that spilled across the sidewalk and into the street. A sign hung at a broken angle from one remaining chain. Marcus couldn't read all the words, just velocity and motors. Dust rose from the pile like smoke from a fire that was still burning. People gathered at the edges, holding phones, covering their mouths. Nobody moved toward the rubble. They just stood there, frozen, staring. Then Marcus heard it. A voice, small, muffled, buried. "Help! Somebody help me! Please!" It was a child's voice. A little girl, maybe younger than him.
Daddy! I want my daddy! Please, somebody help me!
Marcus's entire body went cold, despite the 100-degree heat. That voice, that small, terrified voice coming from under tons of broken building. A man in a work shirt grabbed his arm. "Kid, stay back. You can't go over there." Marcus pulled free. "There's a girl in there. The fire department's coming. They'll get her out. Just stay back." "She's crying. Can't you hear her?" The man could hear her. Everyone could hear her. But nobody moved. Marcus dropped the man's hand and ran toward the rubble. Someone behind him yelled, "Somebody grab that kid!" But Marcus was small and fast, and already climbing over the first layer of broken concrete before anyone could reach him. The rubble was hot under his hands. Sharp edges bit into his palms. A nail caught his shin and tore a line of red across his skin. He didn't stop. He couldn't stop. That voice was pulling him forward like a rope tied around his chest. "Hey!" Marcus shouted into the cracks between the debris. "Hey! I can hear you! Where are you?" A pause, then, I'm here. I'm stuck. Something's on my legs and I can't move. And it's dark. And I want my daddy. Keep talking. I'm coming. Are you a grown-up? No, I'm 7. I'm 5. My name is Sophia. I'm Marcus. Sophia, keep talking to me. Don't stop. I need to follow your voice.
Marcus crawled on his hands and knees across the rubble, pressing his ear to every gap. Behind him, adults shouted at him to come back. He heard the words dangerous and aftershock and killed. He didn't care. Sophia was crying, but she was talking.
My daddy's name is Rico. He drives the fastest cars. He has tattoos on his arms and a beard, and he makes me pancakes on Sundays. And he's not very good at braiding my hair, but he tries. And I have a cat named Turbo. And I want to go home.
You're going to go home, Sophia. I promise. Keep talking. He found a gap between a fallen beam and a slab of concrete. It was narrow, very narrow. An adult wouldn't fit. A large child wouldn't fit. But Marcus Chen, who was small for 7 and thin from not eating enough, could fit. He squeezed through. The darkness swallowed him whole. He could smell dust and chemicals, paint or gasoline from the garage below. He could feel the weight above him,
The entire collapsed building pressing down, held up by the random geometry of how the pieces fell. One shift, one aftershock, and it would all come down.
Sophia, how close am I? I don't know. It's dark. I can hear you, though. You're getting louder. Marcus army crawled on his stomach, pulling himself forward with his elbows. His chin scraped the concrete floor, his back pressed against rough debris above. The space got tighter and tighter until he was moving through a gap barely 18 inches high. His hand touched something. Hair. Soft. Blonde. I found you, Marcus whispered. Sophia grabbed his hand and held on with a grip that was pure terror and pure relief all at once. Don't leave me. Please don't leave me. I'm not going anywhere. Marcus pulled out the small flashlight keychain that Nana Lily kept on the trailer keyring. He always carried it. Nana said, "You never know when you'll need light." He clicked it on.
Sophia Marie Martinez lay in a pocket of space about 4 feet wide. 2 beams had fallen against each other like a tent, creating a tiny cave that saved her life. Without that accidental shelter, she would have been crushed. She had blonde curls tied with pink ribbons, now gray with dust, bright green eyes wide and wet with tears. She wore a little racing jacket over her t-shirt, child-sized, black leather with patches. On the back, a checkered flag and words stitched in silver thread. Daddy's co-pilot, Martinez Racing Crew. A heavy chunk of ceiling plaster and wood lay across her legs, pinning her flat. "Can you feel your toes?" Marcus asked. Sophia wiggled her feet. "Yeah, but it hurts really bad." "That's good. My Nana says if you can feel it, it's still working." "Your Nana sounds smart." "She's the smartest person I know." Marcus examined the debris on Sophia's legs. It was heavy, but it wasn't solid concrete. Plaster and wood lathing. If it were concrete, he'd have no chance. But this? Maybe. He braced his back against one beam and pushed at the chunk with both legs. Everything he had, every ounce of strength in his small body. The debris shifted 1 inch. Dust rained down from above. Both children froze. "Is it going to fall on us?" Sophia whispered. Marcus looked up at the beams above them. He could hear them creaking. The building was still deciding whether to stand or collapse completely. "No," he said. "I won't let it." He pushed again. The debris moved another inch. Sophia whimpered as the pressure shifted on her legs. Marcus stopped, repositioned his feet, and pushed a 3rd time. His face went red, his arms shook, his back screamed. A 7-year-old boy straining against the weight of a building with nothing but stubbornness and the sound of a little girl's crying in his ears. The chunk slid sideways. 3 inches. 4. 5. "Pull your legs out! Now, Sophia! Now!" Sophia dragged herself backward, screaming in pain. Her left leg came free, then her right. She scrambled toward Marcus and threw her arms around his neck, squeezing so hard he could barely breathe. "I got you," Marcus said, "but we gotta go. Can you crawl?"
I think so. My legs hurt.
"Follow me. Stay right behind me. Don't stop no matter what you hear." Marcus turned around in the cramped space and started crawling back toward where he came in. Sophia followed, whimpering with every movement, but not stopping. Not once. Behind them, something groaned, deep and structural. The sound of tons of material shifting. They crawled faster. The gap Marcus had squeezed through was ahead. He pushed through first, then reached back and pulled Sophia after him. Her racing jacket caught on a piece of rebar. She jerked to a stop.
I'm stuck.
"Hold still." Marcus grabbed the back of her jacket and yanked hard. The leather tore, but Sophia came through. They scrambled over the rubble. Marcus first, then Sophia clutching the back of his shirt. Light. Sunlight. Blinding and beautiful. They emerged from the rubble and the crowd erupted. People were screaming, pointing, running toward them. Someone was sobbing. A man fell to his knees. Marcus stood up and pulled Sophia to her feet. She couldn't walk well. Her legs were bruised and swollen. So he wrapped her arm around his shoulder and half-carried her down the pile of debris. He was 7 years old, barely bigger than her, stumbling over broken bricks with blood running down his arms and legs, carrying a 5-year-old girl he'd met 3 minutes ago in the dark. A firefighter who had just pulled up reached them first. He scooped Sophia up with one arm and grabbed Marcus with the other. "I got you both! I got you both! You're okay!" Paramedics swarmed. Sophia was placed on a stretcher. They checked her legs, her eyes, her breathing. She answered their questions in a small, shaking voice, but she never let go of Marcus's hand. Her fingers locked around his like a vice. "Don't go," she said. "Please, Marcus, don't leave me." "I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere." A paramedic knelt in front of Marcus. Young guy, maybe 25. Wide eyes. "Kid, did you crawl in there? Into the building?"
Yeah.
"By yourself?"
Nobody else was small enough.
The paramedic stared at him for a long moment. Then he shook his head slowly. "How old are you?"
7.
The paramedic looked at his partner. Neither of them said anything for a few seconds. Then the partner whispered,
7 years old.
In the crowd, someone had been filming, a man holding his phone steady, capturing the moment Marcus emerged from the rubble with Sophia on his shoulder. He uploaded the video before the ambulance doors even closed. Within 1 hour, 1 million views. Within 2 hours, the video reached a garage 20 miles west, where a man with tattoos covering both arms and a thick black beard was helping clear earthquake debris from his parking lot. His phone buzzed. A text from his crew's vice president. "Turn on the news now. It's Sophia." Rico Ghost Martinez watched the video on his cracked phone screen. He watched a 7-year-old boy carry his daughter out of a collapsed building. He watched his baby girl, covered in dust and blood, clinging to a stranger's neck. Rico dropped the phone. His knees hit the concrete, and the most feared street racer in California made a sound that wasn't a word. It was something deeper. Something that came from a place where language doesn't reach. Then he stood up,
wiped his face, and started his car. He would not be driving alone. The ambulance hit a pothole and Sophia cried out. Marcus tightened his grip on her hand. "I'm here. You're okay."
"It hurts, Marcus."
"I know, but we're almost there. The doctors are going to fix you up." The paramedic across from them, the young one who couldn't stop staring, leaned forward. "Your parents know where you are, buddy?"
"I live with my Nana. She's at work."
"What's her number? We need to call someone." Marcus recited it from memory. Nana Lily had made him memorize it when he was 4, drilled it into him every night before bed like a prayer. He watched the paramedic dial. No answer. He tried again. No answer. "Cell towers are probably down from the earthquake," the paramedic said. "Half the city's trying to call someone right now." "We'll keep trying," the paramedic said. Sophia tugged Marcus's arm.
"Will you stay with me at the hospital?"
"Yeah."
"Promise?"
"I already promised once. I don't break promises." Sophia studied his face with those wide green eyes. Dust still covered her cheeks. Tear tracks cut clean lines through the gray.
"You came into the dark for me," she said. "Nobody else came."
"Just you." "Somebody had to. But it was you. You're just a kid like me, and you came." Marcus didn't know what to say to that. He looked down at his hands. Both palms were torn up, raw and bleeding. His knees were the same. His shin had a gash where the nail caught him. His shirt was ripped almost in half. He looked like he'd been in a fight with something much bigger than himself. He had been. The ambulance stopped. The doors flew open. Noise hit them like a wave. Shouting, sirens, people crying, wheels on tile. The hospital was chaos. Every hallway packed. Doctors running, nurses shouting orders, gurneys lined up against walls because there were no rooms left. They wheeled Sophia through the emergency entrance. Marcus walked beside the stretcher, his hand still locked in hers. A nurse tried to separate them.
"Honey, you need to come with me. We need to check you out too."
Sophia's grip turned to iron.
"No, he stays with me. He promised."
The nurse looked at Marcus.
Marcus looked at the nurse.
"I'm fine," he said. "Just scratches. Let me stay with her until her dad gets here." Something in his voice, the calm, the steadiness, the way he spoke like someone 3 times his age, made the nurse pause. She nodded. "Okay, but I'm sending someone to clean those cuts on your hands." They put Sophia in a curtained area at the end of a packed hallway. A doctor arrived within minutes. Tall woman with her hair pulled back tight. She examined Sophia's legs carefully, pressing, bending, watching Sophia's face for pain reactions. "Left leg has a hairline fracture," she said. "Right leg is badly bruised, but no break. We need x-rays to confirm, and I want to check for concussion." "I hit my head," Sophia said, "when everything fell. It hurt a lot, but then my legs hurt worse, so I forgot about my head." The doctor almost smiled. "You're a tough one, aren't you?" "My daddy says Martinez girls are made of steel." "Well, your daddy's right. We're going to take good care of you, sweetheart." The doctor turned to Marcus. "And who are you?" "He's my hero," Sophia said before Marcus could answer. "He crawled in and saved me. He's 7. The doctor looked at Marcus's hands, his torn clothes, the blood drying on his shins. She crouched down to his level. "You went into that collapsed building?" "Yes, ma'am." "You know how dangerous that was?" "Yes, ma'am. But she was in there." The doctor held his gaze. Her eyes were doing something complicated. Admiration and horror mixed together. "Don't move from this spot," she said. "I'm sending someone to treat those wounds." A nurse came and cleaned Marcus's hands. She picked gravel and concrete dust out of his palms with tweezers. It stung badly, but he didn't flinch. He'd had worse. Last winter he'd stepped on a broken bottle behind the trailer park and walked home bleeding for 3 blocks because there was no one to carry him.
"You're a brave kid," the nurse said, wrapping white gauze around both his palms.
"I'm not brave. I was scared the whole time." "That's what brave means, sweetheart. Doing it scared." They took Sophia for x-rays. Marcus sat in a plastic chair outside the curtain, his bandaged hands in his lap. His stomach growled. He'd only had the soup kitchen breakfast before the earthquake hit. He was starving. But he didn't say anything. Everyone here was dealing with bigger problems than a hungry kid. A nurse brought him a juice box and a package of graham crackers. He said thank you 3 times. He drank the juice slowly, making it last. Sophia came back from x-rays 20 minutes later. The doctor confirmed the hairline fracture. They put her in a cast. She wanted pink. They had pink. While the technician worked on her leg, Sophia talked non-stop.
My daddy is so big. He's the biggest person you've ever seen. He has a beard that goes all the way down here.
She pointed to her chest.
"And he has a car that's so loud it shakes the windows. And he runs a garage where he fixes cars for racing. And he's the best driver in the whole city. Maybe the whole state."
"Best driver at what?" the technician asked.
"Racing. Street racing. That's why I have this jacket."
She looked down at her torn leather jacket.
Oh no, it's ripped. Daddy's going to be so sad. He had it made special for me.
The technician's hands paused for just a second. Marcus noticed. The words street racing changed something in the room. A small shift, like the air got heavier.
My daddy's not scary, Sophia said, reading the silence. People think he's scary because he's big and has tattoos. But he cries at sad movies, and he sings me songs at bedtime. And he once drove 40 miles to find my stuffed bear when I left it at a rest stop.
Marcus smiled. It was the first time he'd smiled all day. An hour passed, then 2. The hospital showed no signs of slowing down.
More earthquake victims kept arriving. Marcus heard doctors talking about a school that partially collapsed on the other side of town. 17 kids injured, 2 still missing. His stomach twisted. He thought about those kids in the dark, the same dark Sophia had been in. Sophia fell asleep. The pain medication they gave her pulled her under. Marcus sat beside her bed watching her breathe. He counted her breaths. 15 per minute. Steady. Even. She was safe. He thought about Nana Lily. She was probably out of her mind with worry. If she'd heard about the earthquake, she'd be trying to get home to check on him. The trailer might be damaged. She might be hurt. He should go find her. But he'd promised Sophia he'd stay. Marcus Chen was 7 years old and already understood something most adults never learn. A promise is a promise, even when it costs you. At 4:17 in the afternoon, Marcus felt it before he heard it. A vibration in the floor. Not an aftershock, something different. Rhythmic, building, getting louder. Then the sound hit. A rolling thunder that grew and grew until it filled the entire hospital. Patients looked up from their beds. Nurses stopped mid-step. A child in the hallway started crying, thinking it was another earthquake. It wasn't an earthquake. It was engines. Hundreds of them. Through the window at the end of the hall, Marcus could see the parking lot filling with cars. They poured in from the street like a chrome river, splitting into rows, filling every space. The drivers dismounted and formed up, a wall of leather and denim that kept growing and growing. Sophia's eyes flew open. She sat straight up and grabbed Marcus's arm.
That's them. That's the crew. That means Daddy's here.
The emergency room doors burst open and the racers came through. Not 1 or 2, dozens.
They filled the waiting room in seconds. Leather jackets covered in patches, tattooed arms, hard faces, heavy boots on tile floor. The hospital security guard took one look at the wall of people coming through his door and picked up his phone. At the front of the group was a man who made the others look small. Rico "Ghost" Martinez was 6'4" and 260 pounds. Shaved head, thick black beard reaching his chest, arms covered in ink. His leather jacket carried more patches than Marcus could count. The one on the front said, "Ghost." His eyes were red and swollen. Tears were still wet on his cheeks. He hadn't stopped crying since he watched that video 20 miles away.
Where is she?
Rico's voice cracked the air open. Where's my daughter? A nurse stepped forward. She was shaking slightly, but held her ground.
Sir, I need you to—
Where is my daughter?
Daddy!
Sophia's voice came from behind the curtain at the end of the hall. Rico moved. He didn't walk. He didn't run. He moved like gravity had shifted, and his daughter was the center of the earth. Racers parted to let him through. Nurses stepped aside. Nothing was going to stand between Rico Martinez and his little girl. He pulled the curtain back and saw her. Pink cast on her left leg, bruises on her right, dust still in her hair, hospital gown too big for her small body. But alive. Eyes open, arms reaching for him. Rico crossed the space in one step and scooped her up. Gentle. So gentle for such a massive man. Careful of her cast, cradling her head against his chest. The sound he made was not a word. It came from somewhere below language, below thought, from the place where a father's love lives. Baby girl, my baby girl, I'm here. Daddy's here.
Daddy, I was so scared. Everything fell and it was dark and my legs were stuck and I couldn't move.
I know, baby, I know. But you're safe now. Daddy's got you. Nobody's ever going to hurt you again.
Marcus saved me.
Rico pulled back just enough to look at her face. What?
Marcus. He crawled in through the dark.
He was the only one small enough to fit. He pushed the stuff off my legs, and he carried me out, and he stayed with me the whole time, and he promised he wouldn't leave. And he didn't leave, Daddy. He didn't leave me. Rico turned his head slowly. Marcus sat in the plastic chair 3 feet away. Small, thin, sandy brown hair falling over his eyes, bandaged hands folded in his lap. Torn shirt, bloody knees, old sneakers with cardboard in the toes. Everything about him screamed poverty. Everything about him screamed invisible. Rico set Sophia down on the bed gently. He stood up to his full height and looked down at this boy. You're Marcus?
Yes, sir.
How old are you?
7.
Rico's jaw clenched. He swallowed hard. You crawled into a collapsed building to save my daughter?
Yes, sir. I heard her calling for help. I was small enough to fit through the gap, so I went.
Weren't you afraid?
Yes, sir, a lot.
But you went anyway.
She was in there alone.
I couldn't just leave her. Rico Martinez had been racing cars for 16 years. He had faced death 100 times at 150 miles per hour. He had buried friends. He had walked away from crashes that should have killed him. He dropped to both knees on that hospital floor, and he wept. Not quiet tears, not the kind you can hide. Deep, shaking sobs that came from his chest and tore through him like the earthquake that started all of this. He pulled Marcus into his arms, carefully because this was a child, not a man, and held him. Thank you, Rico whispered. Thank you for saving my daughter.
Thank you for going into the dark. Thank you for keeping your promise. Marcus stood stiff at first. He wasn't used to being held. Nana Lily hugged him, but that was different. That was soft and familiar. This was a giant stranger shaking with emotion. Wrapping him in arms bigger than his whole body, Marcus didn't know what to do with his hands. Then, slowly, he hugged back. Behind them, the racers watched. Angel Wrench Torres, the vice president, 62 years old with a gray beard and scars on every knuckle. He stood in the doorway with his arms crossed and his eyes wet. Carmen Mama C. Delgado, the crew's matriarch, short silver hair, the woman everyone called when things fell apart. She had her hand pressed over her mouth. Diego Nitro Ramos, the sergeant at arms, the man who hadn't cried since he was 12. He stood with his back against the wall, looking at the ceiling, blinking fast. Rico finally let go. He held Marcus at arm's length and looked at him. Really looked at him. Not through him, not past him. At him. Where are your parents, son? I live with my Nana. She's at work. They can't reach her. The phones are messed up. Just your Nana? Nobody else? Just us. Rico stood up. He wiped his face with both hands. He turned to Wrench. Find out everything. Where he lives, what the situation is, everything. Wrench nodded and pulled out his phone. Rico turned to Carmen. Stay with the kids, both of them. Don't let anyone separate them. Carmen stepped forward and put her hand on Marcus's shoulder. Her touch was warm and firm. You hungry, baby? Marcus almost lied, almost said no. But his stomach answered for him, growling so loud that Sophia giggled from the bed. I'll take that as a yes, Carmen said. Diego, go find this child a real meal, not hospital food, real food. Diego pushed off the wall. On it, Mama C. And Diego, get enough for the girl, too. Diego was back in 20 minutes with 2 bags of burgers and fries and milkshakes from a place 3 blocks away. Marcus ate like he hadn't eaten in days. Because he almost hadn't. He tried to eat slowly, tried to be polite, but his body overruled his manners. He finished the burger in 6 bites. Sophia watched him eat. Were you really hungry? Marcus wiped his mouth. Yeah. Don't you eat dinner at your house? Sometimes there's not a lot of food. Sophia looked at her father. Rico heard every word. His jaw was tight. His hands were fists at his sides. Not angry at Marcus, angry at the world that let a 7-year-old boy go hungry. Wrench came back with information. He pulled Rico into the hallway and spoke low. But Marcus had sharp ears. He'd learned to listen carefully because knowing things kept you safe. Kid lives at Riverside Mobile Home Park, Unit 9. Just him and his grandmother, Lily Chen. She's 66, works 2 jobs. The trailer's in bad shape, no AC, cracked walls. The kid walks 4 blocks to buy groceries with $5 bills. He eats at the soup kitchen when the food runs out at home. Rico said nothing for 10 seconds. There's more, Wrench continued. His mother's gone, left when he was 3. Drugs, from what people say. No father in the picture, never was. The grandmother is all he has, and she's got a cough that won't quit. Neighbors say she's been sick for months, but won't see a doctor because she can't afford it. Rico pressed his forehead against the wall. He's got nothing, Wrench. This kid has absolutely nothing. And he crawled into a collapsed building to save my daughter. I know. He could have died in there. I know, brother. Rico turned around. His eyes had changed. Something had solidified behind them. A decision made, not just an emotion. A commitment. Call a meeting tonight. Full crew. Everyone who can drive.
What are we doing?
What we do? We take care of family.
He's not.
He is now.
Wrench looked at Rico for a long moment. Then he nodded once and walked away, already dialing. Nana Lily arrived at 5:30 in the afternoon. She'd walked almost 4 miles from the motel because the buses weren't running. Her knees were swollen. Her face was gray with exhaustion. She'd heard about the earthquake on the radio at work and had been trying to reach Marcus for 3 hours. The phones were still down. She'd gone to the trailer first. He wasn't there. She'd gone to the soup kitchen. It was destroyed. She'd asked everyone she passed if they'd seen a small boy with brown hair. Nobody had. By the time a stranger with a working phone showed her the video, now at 8 million views, Lily Chen was convinced her grandson was dead. She watched the video standing on the sidewalk outside a gas station. She watched a small boy. Her Marcus. The only person in the world she would die for. Crawl out of a pile of rubble, carrying a little girl on his back. Lily walked the last mile and a half to the hospital on knees that screamed with every step. She found Marcus in a room full of racers, eating ice cream that Sophia had insisted on sharing. He had a chocolate mustache. His hands were wrapped in white gauze. A leather-clad woman with silver hair had her arm around his shoulder. Lily stopped in the doorway.
Nana!
Marcus jumped off the chair and ran to her. He hit her at full speed, wrapping his arms around her waist, pressing his face into her stomach. Lily grabbed him and held on so tight her arm shook.
Marcus Michael Chen.
Her voice was barely a whisper.
You scared me half to death. I'm sorry, Nana. Don't you ever. I can't.
She couldn't finish. The tears took her voice. Rico stood from his chair. He walked toward Lily and stopped 2 feet away. He towered over her. This massive man, covered in tattoos and leather, looking down at this small, exhausted grandmother with white hair and swollen knees.
Ma'am, I'm Rico Martinez. That's my daughter Sophia on that bed. Your grandson saved her life today.
Lily looked up at him.
She was shaking from exhaustion, from emotion,
from the 4-mile walk on bad knees.
I know, she said. I saw the video.
I thought, when I saw him climb into that building, I thought I was going to lose him. He went in when nobody else would. Grown men stood around doing nothing. Your boy heard my girl crying and he didn't hesitate, not for 1 second. Lily looked at Marcus. She cupped his face in her rough, dry hands.
That's because he's always been like that. Ever since he was tiny, always running toward trouble, always trying to help, even when nobody helps him.
Rico flinched. That last sentence hit him like a fist. Nobody helps him. Lily didn't say it with anger. She said it with the bone-deep tiredness of a woman who had been fighting alone for too long.
I do my best, she continued. I work 2 jobs. I make sure he eats before I eat. I keep a roof over his head, even if that roof has cracks in it. But I'm 66 years old, Mr. Martinez. My knees are giving out. I've got a cough that keeps me up at night, and I lay awake wondering what happens to this boy if something happens to me.
The room went silent. Every racer heard it, every single one. Carmen closed her eyes. Diego turned away. Wrench stared at the floor. Rico knelt down until he was eye level with Lily.
Mrs. Chen, I need you to hear something, and I need you to believe it.
What's that?
You are not alone anymore. Neither is Marcus. Starting right now.
Lily shook her head.
Mr. Martinez, I appreciate the sentiment, but we don't take charity. We manage.
This isn't charity, ma'am. This is debt. Your grandson gave me back the most important thing in my life. There is no dollar amount on that. There is no way to repay it. but I'm going to spend every day trying. Sophia called from the bed.
Nana Lily, come see my cast. It's pink. Marcus can sign it first because he saved me.
Lily looked at the little girl with the blonde curls and the pink cast and the smile that could light up a burned-down building. Then she looked at Marcus, who was already walking toward Sophia's bed with a marker he'd gotten from somewhere. Because that's who he was. A boy who always moved toward the person who needed him. Lily looked at Rico.
He hasn't had a birthday party since he was 4, she said. He hasn't seen a doctor in 2 years. His shoes have cardboard in them. And this morning he spent our last $5 on bread and peanut butter.
She paused.
And he still went into that building for a stranger.
Rico put his hand over hers. He's not going to need cardboard in his shoes ever again, Mrs. Chin. That's not a promise from a stranger. That's a promise from a father who understands exactly what your grandson is worth. Lily searched his face. She was looking for the lie. She'd been lied to before, by the system, by her daughter, by landlords and employers and everyone who said things would get better. She was an expert at spotting false promises. She didn't find a lie in Rico Martinez's eyes. She found something she hadn't seen directed at her in a very long time. Respect. Real, deep, unshakable respect.
Okay,
Lily whispered.
okay.
Marcus signed Sophia's cast with the marker. He drew a small race car next to his name. The same sleek design he always drew in the dirt outside the trailer. Sophia looked at it.
Why do you draw race cars?
It's just something I like to draw.
Do you want to race cars when you grow up?
Marcus thought about it. I want to build them. Make them go fast, but keep people safe. Rico stood behind them, watching. His phone buzzed, a text from Wrench. Meeting set, tonight, 9 p.m., full crew confirmed, 200 plus. Word spreading to other crews. Bakersfield, San Bernardino, Long Beach, they all want in. Rico typed back, "Good. Tell them to bring their wallets and their hearts. We've got work to do." He put his phone away and looked at Marcus, who is now teaching Sophia how to draw the wheels on the race car. 2 kids. One from a trailer park with nothing. One from a racing family with everything. Both covered in dust from the same earthquake. Both laughing at a drawing that looked more like a blob than a car. Rico turned to Wrench, who had just walked back into the room. "How many people have watched that video now?" Wrench checked his phone. 12 million and climbing. The whole world saw what that boy did. The whole world saw it, brother. Rico nodded slowly. Then the whole world is going to see what happens next. The meeting started at 9 that night in the back lot of Velocity Motors. The garage had taken damage from the earthquake, cracked windows, tools knocked off walls, but the structure held. Rico had built it solid when he bought the place 8 years ago. He built everything solid. That was his way. 237 people showed up. Racers, mechanics, fabricators, pit crews from 6 different racing communities. They stood in the parking lot under work lights that someone had rigged up because half the city's power was still out. Rico stood on the bed of a pickup truck so everyone could see him. Sophia sat in the cab with Carmen. The girl refused to go home, refused to leave until she knew Marcus was taken care of. "Listen up!" Rico's voice cut through the murmur of conversations. "You all saw the video. You all know what happened. My daughter was trapped under a collapsed building, scared out of her mind. 5 years old. Thought she was going to die." The crowd went silent. "Grown men stood outside that building doing nothing," Rico continued. "I don't blame them. It was dangerous, unstable. Any second it could have come down. So people stood there, frozen, and my daughter screamed for help." He paused. His voice dropped lower.
Then a boy showed up. 7 years old, 48 pounds. Nothing in his pockets, nothing to his name. He heard a voice crying in the dark, and he didn't think about himself. Didn't think about danger. Didn't think about the fact that nobody was going to reward him, or thank him, or even notice. He just went. Rico's voice broke. He stopped, breathed, kept going. He squeezed through a gap too small for any adult, crawled on his belly through the wreckage, found my daughter pinned under debris, and pushed it off with his own body. Then he carried her out. A 7-year-old boy carried a 5-year-old girl out of a collapsed building while the ground was still shaking. Silence. Complete silence, except for the hum of the work lights. "I've been racing for 16 years, Rico said. "I've ridden with the toughest people on this coast. I've seen courage in 100 different forms. But I have never seen anything like what this boy did." He turned and pointed to where Marcus would be if he were here. But Marcus wasn't here. Marcus was at the hospital with Lily, getting his cuts cleaned and bandaged properly. Getting examined by doctors who worked for free because Carmen's sister made phone calls. "Then I learned who this boy is," Rico said. "He lives in the trailer park with his grandmother, just the two of them. His mother left when he was 3, no father. His grandmother is 66 years old, works 2 jobs. She's sick but won't see a doctor because she can't afford it. The kid eats at charity kitchens because there isn't always enough food at home. His shoes have cardboard stuffed in the toes because the soles have holes." Someone in the crowd said, "Jesus." "This morning," Rico continued, "he spent his family's last $5 on bread and peanut butter. And this afternoon, he risked his life for my daughter. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know who I was. He didn't do it for a reward. He did it because that's who he is." Rico looked across the crowd at faces he'd known for years, men and women who understood loyalty like it was oxygen. "I'm not asking for a vote," he said. "I already know the answer. I'm asking what we do and how fast we do it." Wrench stood up. Older guy, voice like gravel. "I've already made some calls. Here's the situation. The trailer they live in is falling apart. No air conditioning, cracked walls. The lot rent is $400 a month, and the grandmother is barely making it. She needs to see a doctor, but won't go because she can't afford it. The boy hasn't been to a dentist in his life. He starts 2nd grade in 2 weeks, and his grandmother is trying to figure out how to buy school supplies." Carmen spoke next. "I talked to 3 crew wives this afternoon. We can organize everything. Furniture, clothes, food within 48 hours. But the big stuff needs the crew's backing. Rent, medical, the boy's future." Diego leaned against a car with his arms crossed. "What about the video? Last I checked it was at 18 million views. People are asking how to help. We could set up a fund." Rico nodded. "Do it, but the fund is for the boy's future, college, whatever he needs when he's older. The immediate stuff, rent, medical, the trailer repairs, that comes from us, from the family. Because this is personal." A racer from the Bakersfield crew raised his hand. Older guy, maybe 60, with a white beard and a voice like gravel. "Brother, I watched that video 6 times. Showed it to my wife. She cried so hard she couldn't talk. I drove 90 minutes to be here tonight. You tell me what you need, and I'll empty my savings account right now." Another voice from the San Bernardino group. "Same here. Whatever it takes." Then another, and another. Hands went up across the crowd. Voices overlapped. Rico had to raise both arms to quiet them down. "Here's what we're going to do," he said. "We fix the trailer. New AC, new plumbing, structural repairs. Our guys can do most of the work. Carmen, coordinate the crew.
Done.
We pay the grandmother's lot rent. Not 1 month, not 6 months. 5 years. Prepaid. She never worries about it again. Wrench wrote it down. We get her to a doctor this week. Whatever she needs, we cover it. No arguments. Carmen nodded. We set up the fund for Marcus, college money. Diego, you handle the online side. Make it airtight. Every dollar accounted for. I don't want anyone saying this crew took a cent from a child. Diego straightened up. I'll have it live by morning. And one more thing. Rico reached under a tarp and pulled out something wrapped in brown paper. He unwrapped it slowly. A racing jacket, child-sized, black leather, hand-stitched. On the back, the Martinez Racing Crew patch, checkered flags and a silver skull. Above it, Riverside chapter. Below it, in red thread, 3 words. Little Racer, Crew for Life. And Marcus's name embroidered across the shoulders. Rico held it up. I had this made today. Carmen's daughter did the stitching. When we roll up to that trailer park, and we are going to roll up, this boy is going to know he's family. He's going to know that 237 people have his back for the rest of his life. The crowd erupted, not cheering exactly. Something deeper. A sound of agreement that came from the gut. Fists on car hoods, boots on concrete, heads nodding. Some eyes wet. Rico folded the jacket carefully and set it down. We ride in 3 days, full formation, every crew that wants in. We show up at that trailer park and we show this boy and his grandmother that the world didn't forget them, that someone sees them. Wrench looked around the crowd. All in favor? Every hand went up. Every single one. The next 3 days moved fast. Carmen organized the logistics like a general running a campaign. She had 20 years of experience coordinating charity rides and community events. But this was different. This was personal. She could feel it in the way people responded. Normally, getting volunteers meant phone calls and reminders and a little bit of guilt. This time, people called her. Wives of crew members showed up at the garage with boxes of clothes, children's clothes sorted by size, washed and folded. Someone donated a brand new backpack filled with school supplies, pencils, notebooks, crayons, a calculator, a ruler. Another member's wife went to the shoe store and bought 3 pairs of sneakers in different sizes because she didn't know Marcus's exact size and wanted to make sure 1 pair fit. The mechanic crew, 6 guys who worked on cars for a living, drew up plans for the trailer repairs. They estimated 2 days of work. New air conditioning unit donated by a member who owned an HVAC company. New plumbing fixtures, patched walls, replaced windows. When we're done, the crew chief told Rico, that trailer is going to be tighter than a new build. Diego set up the GoFundMe at 4 in the morning, 2 hours after the meeting ended. He wrote the description himself, something he'd never done before. Diego was a man of few words and even fewer emotions, but he sat at his kitchen table and typed with 2 fingers and got it right on the first try. 3 days ago, a 7-year-old boy named Marcus Chen crawled into a collapsed building to save a 5-year-old girl he'd never met. He had no tools, no training. No one asked him to do it. He heard a child crying in the dark, and he went in. Marcus lives with his grandmother in a trailer park. He has nothing. He gave everything. Help us give something back. He posted the link at 4:22 in the morning. By 6 o'clock, it had raised $14,000. By noon, $87,000. By the end of the first day, $193,000. Donations came from everywhere. $5 from a single mother in Ohio. $1,000 from a retired Marine in Texas who wrote, "This kid has more guts than half the men I served with." $20 from a group of 3rd graders in Maine who pooled their allowance money. The messages poured in by the hundreds. Diego read every single one. At 2 in the morning on the second night, Carmen found him sitting at his computer with tears running down his face. He didn't explain. She didn't ask. She just set a cup of coffee beside him and squeezed his shoulder. Meanwhile, Marcus had no idea any of this was happening. He went home from the hospital that first night with Nana Lily. They walked because there were no buses and no money for a taxi. Lily's knees were so swollen she had to stop every 2 blocks. Marcus walked slowly beside her, matching her pace, pretending he wasn't doing it on purpose so she wouldn't feel embarrassed. "Nana, lean on me." "You're too small to lean on." "No, I'm not. Try." Lily put her hand on his shoulder. He was too short for it to help much, but the gesture meant everything. They walked the last mile like that, an old woman and a small boy making their way through a city that was still shaking from aftershocks. The trailer was still standing. The crack in the wall had gotten wider. A window was broken, but it was standing. Marcus checked every room while Nana Lily sat down and elevated her knees. "Everything's okay, Nana. The fridge is still running. The fan still works. We're okay." Lily pulled him onto her lap. He was getting too big for it, all elbows and knees, but she held him anyway. "Don't you ever do anything like that again. You hear me? Don't you ever crawl into a broken building. Promise me." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "I can't promise that, Nana." "Marcus, if someone needs help and I can help, I'm going to help. That's how you raised me." Lily's arms tightened around him. She pressed her face into his hair. He smelled like concrete dust and hospital soap. "I raised you too good," she whispered. "That's my problem. I raised you too good, and now you're going to give me a heart attack." "I'll try to warn you first next time." She laughed. It turned into a cough. A bad one. Marcus got her water and stood there until she drank it all. "Nana, please see a doctor. Please, for me." Lily looked at his face, his serious, too old eyes, the bandages on his hands, the scrapes on his chin. This boy, who had crawled into darkness for a stranger, was asking her for one thing. One thing. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll make an appointment this week." "This week?" "This week. Thank you." He went to bed that night and fell asleep in 30 seconds. His body had nothing left. Lily sat at the kitchen table after he was asleep, looking at the electric bill, looking at the empty bread bag, looking at the jar on top of the refrigerator with $47 in it. She did the math she always did. Rent, food, electric, gas for the stove, bus fare to work. The numbers didn't add up. They never did. She thought about what Rico Martinez said at the hospital. "You are not alone anymore." She wanted to believe it. She'd wanted to believe a lot of things in her 66 years. Experience had taught her that promises were easy and follow-through was rare. But the way that man looked at Marcus, the way his hands shook when he knelt on that hospital floor, that wasn't performance. That was real. Lily went to bed with her knees aching and her chest tight. She coughed for 20 minutes before sleep finally took her. In the other room, Marcus slept deeper than he had in months. His bandaged hands curled under his chin. The next day, Rico called Lily. He'd gotten her number from the hospital records. She almost didn't answer. Unknown number. Could be a bill collector. Could be the landlord about the broken window. She answered on the 5th ring. "Mrs. Chen, this is Rico Martinez, Sophia's father." "Mr. Martinez, how is Sophia?" "She's good. She's already driving me crazy wanting to get out of the house. That girl does not sit still." He paused. "How's Marcus?"
Sleeping. He's been sleeping since we got home last night. I think his body just shut down. Let him sleep. He earned it. Another pause. Mrs. Chen, I need to talk to you about something. I'd rather do it in person, but I want to give you a heads up so it doesn't catch you off guard. Lily's hand tightened on the phone. Here it comes, she thought. The catch. There's always a catch. Some people from the crew want to come by to fix up your trailer. New AC, new windows, some repair work. All free, all donated. Silence. Mrs. Chen? I'm here. I'm just... Why? Because your grandson saved my daughter, and he's living in a trailer with no air conditioning in 110-degree heat. That's not right, and we can fix it. So we're going to fix it. Mr. Martinez, I told you at the hospital, we don't take charity. And I told you this isn't charity. And Mrs. Chen, one more thing. Yes? A doctor. We have a member whose wife is a physician. She's agreed to see you for free. Full checkup, whatever you need. The line went silent again. Rico waited. Marcus has been begging me to see a doctor, Lily whispered. Every day. He worries about me more than any 7-year-old should worry about anything. Then let's take that worry off his plate. You see the doctor, you get healthy. You be here for that boy. That's all he needs. Everything else we handle. Lily pressed the phone against her cheek and closed her eyes. A tear slipped down her face and landed on the kitchen table next to the electric bill with the circled number. Okay, Mr. Martinez. Call me Rico. Okay, Rico. And it's Lily. Lily, the electric bill on your table. Whatever it is, throw it away. It's paid. Lily opened her eyes. How did you? Marcus mentioned it at the hospital. Kid notices everything. Lily looked at the bill. $214. The number that had kept her up at night for 2 weeks. It's taken care of? She asked, her voice barely audible. It's taken care of, along with the next 12 months. You focus on getting healthy. You focus on Marcus. We handle the rest. Lily set the bill down. She folded her arms on the table and put her head down and cried. Not the quiet kind of crying she did at night when Marcus was asleep. The real kind. The kind that comes when you've been carrying something so heavy for so long that when someone finally helps you set it down, your whole body gives out. Rico listened. He didn't say anything. He didn't hang up. He just listened. Because sometimes that's what people need more than words. When Lily lifted her head, she wiped her face and took a breath. Rico. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. From the bottom of everything I have. Thank you. We're just getting started, Lily. 2 days later, Thursday morning, the repair crew showed up at 7 sharp. 6 men with tool belts and trucks full of materials. The trailer park residents came out of their units and watched with wide eyes as the crew unloaded a new air conditioning unit, new windows, lumber, plumbing supplies, and enough materials to rebuild half the trailer. Marcus stood on the steps watching them work. He didn't say much. He just watched. After an hour, he walked up to the crew chief, big man named Pete with a handlebar mustache and grease-stained hands. "Can I help?" Pete looked down at him, saw the bandaged hands, the earnest eyes. "You know how to hold a flashlight?" "Yes, sir." "Then you're hired." Marcus spent the entire day following the crew, holding flashlights, handing over tools, asking questions about everything. "What's that called? Why do you do it that way? How does the AC work?" Pete answered every question. By noon, he was calling Marcus Little Foreman. At one point, Marcus crawled onto the trailer to help Pete check the plumbing. Pete looked at the boy wedged into the tight space. Perfectly comfortable. Perfectly calm. "Kid, are you afraid of anything?" Marcus thought about it. "I'm afraid of Nana Lily getting sick. I'm afraid of running out of food. I'm afraid of being alone." Pete stopped working. He set his wrench down. "Those are grown-up fears, buddy." "I know." Pete picked up his wrench and went back to work. He didn't say anything else for a while, but when he climbed out from under the trailer, he called Rico. "This kid just told me his 3 biggest fears. None of them are about himself. All of them are about survival. He's 7, boss. 7. Rico was quiet on the other end. 2 more days, Pete. We ride in 2 more days. And when we get there, that boy is going to know he never has to be afraid of those things again." The crew worked until sundown. They came back Friday and worked until sundown again. When they finished, the trailer had new windows, new air conditioning that hummed cool and steady, patched walls, fixed plumbing, a fresh coat of paint on the outside. Lily stood in her kitchen feeling cold air blow from the vents for the first time in 2 years and pressed both hands over her heart. "It's cold in here," she said. And then she laughed. And then she cried. And then she laughed again. Marcus stood in front of the AC vent with his arms spread wide, eyes closed, face tilted up into the cool air. He stood there for 5 full minutes without moving, just breathing. "This is the best thing I've ever felt," he said. Lily watched him. This boy, this impossible, stubborn, brave, beautiful boy who crawled into a collapsed building for a stranger and stood in front of an air conditioning vent like it was a miracle. "Baby," she said, "you ain't seen nothing yet." She didn't know how right she was. She didn't know that at that exact moment, 40 miles away, 603 vehicles were being polished and fueled, that leather jackets were being zipped up, that a child-sized jacket with red stitching was being wrapped in brown paper, that Rico Martinez was standing in his garage, holding his daughter's hand, looking at a photograph someone had taken at the hospital. A 7-year-old boy with bandaged hands, sitting next to a 5-year-old girl with a pink cast, both of them smiling. Rico tucked the photo into his jacket pocket. He looked at Sophia. "Ready to go see your friend?" Sophia grinned so wide it took over her whole face. "I've been ready for 3 days, Daddy." Rico picked her up, set her on his hip, and carried her outside. The sun was going down. Tomorrow morning, they would ride. Saturday morning, 6 o'clock. Marcus woke up to cold air on his face and forgot where he was for 3 seconds. Then he remembered. The new AC. The repaired trailer. The cool air flowing through vents that actually worked. He lay there with his eyes closed, just feeling it.
This was what normal kids felt every morning. This was what he'd been missing for 2 years. He got up and walked to the kitchen. Nana Lily was already at the table, but she wasn't looking at bills. She was looking at her phone. Someone from the crew, Carmen, had given her a phone. A real one. Not the cracked prepaid she'd been using. Lily said she couldn't accept it. Carmen said it wasn't optional. Lily took the phone.
Nana, why are you up so early?
Lily looked at him. Her eyes were strange, wide, like she'd seen something she couldn't explain.
Marcus, come here.
He walked over. She turned the phone toward him. On the screen was a number. $341,227. What is that? Marcus asked.
It's a GoFundMe page. That man Diego set it up. It's for you.
For me?
For your future. For college. For whatever you need.
Marcus stared at the number. He didn't really understand how much money that was. He understood $5. He understood $47 in a jar on top of the refrigerator. He understood $4.87 for bread and peanut butter. 341,000 was a number that didn't fit in his head.
Is that a lot?
Lily pulled him close.
Baby, that's more money than I've made in my entire life. People gave that? For me? People all over the country, all over the world, because they saw what you did.
Marcus was quiet for a long time. He leaned against Nana Lily's arm and looked at the phone screen. Then he said something that made Lily's heart crack right down the middle.
Can we use some of it to pay your electric bill?
Lily squeezed her eyes shut.
The electric bill is already paid, sweetheart. Rico took care of it.
What about your doctor appointment?
That's taken care of too.
What about food?
Marcus, listen to me.
Everything is taken care of. For right now. Everything is handled. You don't need to worry about any of it. Marcus looked up at her.
I don't know how to do that, Nana. Not worry.
Lily cupped his face in her hands.
I know, baby. I know. We're both going to have to learn.
At 7:30, Lily's phone rang. It was Rico. Lily, good morning. How's our boy?
He's eating cereal. Real cereal from a box, not the generic kind. He's been staring at it like it's Christmas morning.
Rico laughed, but it caught in his throat. Listen, we're going to be heading your way soon. Wanted to give you a heads up.
How many people, Rico?
A pause. A few.
Rico.
603, give or take. Lily sat down.
600. Rico, this is a trailer park. There's one road in and one road out. Where are you going to put 600 cars?
We'll figure it out. We always do. Just make sure Marcus is outside around 10.
Rico.
And Lily?
He doesn't know what's coming.
We wanted it to be a surprise. I gathered that. Are you okay with this? Lily looked through the kitchen window at Marcus, who was sitting on the front steps eating his cereal, watching a hummingbird hover near the neighbor's feeder. His bandaged hands held the bowl carefully. His too long hair fell over his eyes. He looked peaceful. He looked like a kid for the first time in a long time.
I'm okay with it,
Lily said.
More than okay.
She hung up and went outside. She sat down next to Marcus on the steps. He offered her a spoonful of cereal. She took it.
Nana, do you think Sophia's okay? I want to make sure her leg's getting better.
I'm sure she's fine, sweetheart.
Can I see her again? I think you'll see her soon.
Marcus nodded and went back to his cereal. A neighbor walked by, older man named Gerald, who lived 4 trailers down. He stopped when he saw Marcus.
You're the kid from the video, aren't you? Marcus looked up.
What video? Gerald stared at him. Son, you don't know? You're all over the internet. My granddaughter in Michigan sent me the link. 50 million people have watched you pull that girl out of that building. Marcus turned to Lily. 50 million? Lily hadn't told him. She'd been trying to protect him from the attention, from the weight of what he'd done turning into something public and permanent. But the world had found him anyway. The world always finds you when you do something that matters. People are inspired by what you did, Marcus, Lily said carefully. That's a good thing. But I didn't do it for a video. I didn't even know anyone was filming. I know, baby. That's exactly why people love it. Because you didn't do it for attention. You just did it. Marcus set his cereal down. His forehead wrinkled the way it did when he was thinking hard about something. Nana, do you think my mom saw the video? Lily's breath stopped. She hadn't expected that. Of all the things this boy could be thinking about, the money, the attention, the racers, the future, he was thinking about his mother, the woman who left, the woman who chose something else over him. I don't know, baby. If she saw it, do you think she'd be proud of me? Lily grabbed him and pulled him against her chest so hard the cereal bowl almost tipped. Anyone who isn't proud of you is a fool, Marcus Chen. Your mama, wherever she is, would be the proudest woman on earth if she could see what you did. Don't you ever doubt that. Marcus pressed his face into her shirt. He didn't cry. He'd trained himself not to. But his body shook just a little, and Lily held him tighter and let her own tears fall into his sandy brown hair. 9:45. Lily heard it before Marcus did. Her ears were old, but she knew that sound. Low, distant, like thunder rolling in from the west. Except the sky was perfectly clear. Marcus lifted his head. Is that thunder? No, baby, that's not thunder. The sound grew. It swelled. It filled the air and the ground and the walls of every trailer in Riverside Mobile Home Park. Dishes rattled in cabinets. Dogs barked. People came out of their units looking around, confused. Was it another earthquake? Was it a military convoy from the base? Gerald stepped out of his trailer and looked toward the park entrance. His jaw dropped. Lord Almighty. The first cars appeared at the gate. Chrome glinting in the morning sun, engines roaring, drivers in black leather with patches on their backs. They came in 2 by 2, splitting into rows as they entered the trailer park. Behind the first pair came 2 more, then 4 more, then 10, then 20. They kept coming. The road filled up, the dirt shoulders filled up, the empty lot behind Unit 30 filled up. Cars stretched back out through the gate and down the road as far as anyone could see. Marcus stood up from the steps. The cereal bowl fell, and he didn't notice. His eyes were locked on the river of chrome and leather pouring into his trailer park. His mouth was open. His bandaged hands hung at his sides. Nana, what is this? Lily stood behind him with her hand on his shoulder. This is for you, Marcus. For me? All of them. 603 vehicles. The count would be confirmed later by a news helicopter hovering overhead, filming the entire thing from the air. 603 drivers from 7 different racing crews who had driven from as far as 200 miles away. They filled Riverside Mobile Home Park to capacity and beyond, parking on every inch of available ground, their engines creating a sound that residents would talk about for the rest of their lives. Rico rode at the front. Sophia sat in the passenger seat, her pink cast visible through the window, her small hand waving frantically. Behind Rico rode Wrench, then Carmen in her own custom-built muscle car,
then Diego, then Pete, the crew chief, then row after row after row of men and women who had answered the call. Rico killed his engine in front of Unit 9. The driver behind him killed his. Then the next. Then the next. The silence spread backward through the formation like a wave. 603 engines went quiet within 30 seconds. And in that sudden silence, Marcus could hear his own heartbeat, and the birds singing in the one scraggly tree at the edge of the lot. Rico got out of his car. He opened the passenger door and lifted Sophia out carefully, mindful of her cast. The moment her feet touched the ground, she was gone, limping, hopping, half running toward Marcus with her arms open.
Marcus! Marcus! We came! We all came!
She hit him at full speed. They both stumbled, but didn't fall. Marcus caught her and held on. 2 kids hugging in the dirt outside a trailer while 603 racers watched.
Your cast is covered in drawings, Marcus said. Everyone at Daddy's garage signed it.
But yours is still the best. The little race car. I showed everyone. Rico walked forward. Behind him, Wrench carried a wrapped package. Carmen held a folder. Diego carried 2 large boxes. The racers stayed with their vehicles. Forming a wall of leather and denim that stretched the entire length of the trailer park, every resident of Riverside Mobile Home Park was outside now. 46 trailers worth of people standing on their steps, sitting on lawn chairs, watching something they'd never seen before and would never see again. Gerald had tears running down his face, and he didn't care who saw. Rico stopped in front of Marcus. He looked down at this small boy. Sandy hair, bandaged hands, torn sneakers with cardboard in the toes. This boy who had nothing and gave everything. Rico didn't kneel this time. Instead, he turned to face the 603 drivers and raised his voice so every single one could hear. 3 days ago, my daughter was trapped under a collapsed building. She was in the dark. She was alone. She was 5 years old, and she thought she was going to die. Not a sound from the crowd. Not a whisper. Not a cough. Grown men stood outside that building and did nothing. I don't blame them. It was dangerous. The building was still shifting. Anyone who went in might not come out. So people stood there. And my daughter screamed for help. And nobody moved. Rico paused. His voice dropped lower. Then this boy showed up. 7 years old. 48 pounds. Nothing in his pockets. Nothing to his name. He heard a voice in the dark, and he didn't think about himself. Didn't think about danger. Didn't think about the fact that nobody was going to reward him or thank him or even notice. He just went. Rico turned back to Marcus. He squeezed through a gap too small for any adult. He crawled on his belly through the wreckage. He found my daughter pinned under debris, and he pushed it off with his own body. Then he carried her out. A 7-year-old boy carried a 5-year-old girl out of a collapsed building while the ground was still shaking. Rico's voice broke. He stopped, breathed, kept going. I am Rico Martinez. I've been racing for 16 years. I've ridden with the toughest people on this coast. I've seen courage in 100 different forms. But I have never seen anything like what this boy did. He reached out and put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. Marcus was shaking, not from fear, from the overwhelming weight of 603 pairs of eyes looking at him, seeing him. For the first time in his life, hundreds of people were looking directly at him and not looking away. Marcus Chen, Rico said, the racing community wants to honor you.
Wrench stepped forward and unwrapped the brown paper. The jacket. Small, child-sized, hand-stitched black leather.
The skull and checkered flags patch on the back. Riverside chapter above it. And below, in red thread, Little Racer, Crew for Life. And Marcus's name embroidered across the shoulders. Wrench held it out. This means family, Marcus. It means every person standing in this trailer park has your back. Today, tomorrow, for the rest of your life. You need something, you call. We come running. No questions, no hesitation. Ever. Marcus stared at the jacket. His lips pressed together hard. His chin trembled. He reached out and touched the leather with his bandaged fingers. "I'm not a racer," he whispered. "Doesn't matter," Rico said. "This isn't about cars. It's about heart. And kid, you've got more heart than anyone I've ever met." Marcus looked back at Nana Lily. She stood on the trailer steps, both hands over her mouth, tears pouring down her cheeks. She nodded just once, a nod that said, "Take it, baby. You earned this. You deserve this." Marcus turned back to Wrench and took the jacket. He held it in his hands like it was made of glass. Wrench helped him put it on. The leather was warm and heavy on his small shoulders. It hung past his hips. The patches on the back were bigger than his shoulder blades. He looked like a kid playing dress-up. Except nobody was playing. Every person there knew this jacket meant something real. Sophia clapped her hands. "Now you look like us, Marcus. You look like family." Carmen stepped forward with the folder. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were shining. "We took care of a few things, Marcus. You and your Nana." She opened the folder. "First, your Nana's lot rent is paid for 5 years, prepaid. She will never get another rent bill for 60 months. Lily sat down on the steps because her knees wouldn't hold her. "Second, a college fund has been set up in your name." The GoFundMe that our brother Diego created has raised over $341,000 as of this morning. That money is in a trust. It will be there when you're ready. Marcus turned to Nana Lily. "Nana, did you hear that? College? I can go to college?" Lily couldn't speak. She just nodded, crying too hard to form words. "Third, your Nana has a medical appointment Monday with Dr. Sarah Reeves. Full checkup, everything covered. And Marcus, we've also set up appointments for you. Doctor, dentist, eye exam. Everything a growing boy needs." "I've never been to a dentist," Marcus said. "You'll like Dr. Chen," Carmen said. "He gives out stickers." Diego stepped forward with the 2 boxes. He set them down and opened the first one. Inside were clothes. New clothes. T-shirts, jeans, shorts, socks, underwear. All the right size. Someone had done their homework. Diego opened the second box. 3 pairs of sneakers. "We didn't know your exact size," Diego said, "so we got 3. Try them on. Keep the ones that fit. Donate the rest if you want." Marcus dropped to the ground right there in the dirt and pulled off his old sneakers. The cardboard inserts fell out, flattened. Dirt-stained pieces of a cereal box that he'd cut to shape with Nana Lily's kitchen scissors. They lay in the dust like evidence of a life that was ending right here, right now. Diego stared at those pieces of cardboard. This man who hadn't cried since he was 12. This man who had held it together through the meeting, through the GoFundMe, through reading thousands of messages from strangers. He looked at 2 pieces of cardboard that a 7-year-old boy had put in his shoes because the soles had holes. And something inside him broke. Diego turned away from the crowd. He walked 3 steps toward the nearest car and put his hand on the hood to steady himself. His shoulders shook. He pressed his other hand over his eyes, and he cried. Not quiet tears, real, body-shaking sobs that he couldn't stop and didn't try to. It spread like wildfire. Wrench saw Diego break, and his own composure shattered. He pressed his lips together so hard they went white, but the tears came anyway. Carmen didn't even try to hold back. She stood with her arms crossed and her chin up, and let the tears flow freely. Pete, the crew chief, who'd spent 2 days fixing the trailer and calling Marcus Little Foreman, leaned against his truck and wept. One by one, across 603 drivers, the toughest men and women in Riverside broke down. Not because someone told them to, not because it was expected, because a 7-year-old boy was sitting in the dirt, trying on new shoes, with a look on his face like he'd been handed the world. Because cardboard inserts from a cereal box were lying in the dust. Because this child, this brave, quiet, invisible child, had never owned a pair of shoes without holes. Marcus found the pair that fit, size 2.5, blue and white, with real laces and a cushioned sole. He stood up and took 3 steps, and his eyes went wide. "Nana, there's no rocks. I can't feel any rocks." Lily made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "That's how shoes are supposed to feel, baby. They're so soft. The bottom is squishy." Marcus walked in a small circle, testing the shoes, pressing his feet against the ground, marveling at the simple miracle of footwear that worked. Then he stopped. He looked up at the hundreds of people who had come for him, at the tears on their faces, at the leather and chrome and patches and hard hands wiping wet eyes. "Why is everyone crying?" Marcus asked. Rico walked over and crouched down. "Because you're worth crying for, Marcus. And because most of these people have been where you are. Maybe not exactly, but close enough. They know what it feels like to have nothing. They know what it feels like to be invisible, and they know what it means to finally be seen." Marcus looked at Rico with those 2 old eyes. "I wasn't invisible, you know. Not really. Nana always saw me. Mrs. Patterson at the library always saw me. The man at the soup kitchen always saw me. It's just that most people don't look." Rico stared at this boy, 7 years old, talking like a philosopher, talking like a man who'd lived 70 years instead of 7. "You're right," Rico said. "Most people don't look, but we do. And we're never going to stop looking. You understand me? You are seen, Marcus Chen, right here, right now. And from this day forward, you will never be invisible again." Then there was one more thing. Diego, who had pulled himself together enough to walk back to the group, wheeled something forward from behind a truck. A bicycle. Brand new, blue and silver with handbrakes and a water bottle holder. A small Martinez Racing Crew sticker on the frame. "Every racer starts with 2 wheels, Diego said. His voice was rough. His eyes were still red. "This is yours." Marcus's hands flew to his mouth. He didn't move. He just stood there staring at the bike. This boy who had wanted a bicycle for 2 years, who had drawn one in the dirt 100 times and then wiped it away because things you draw in the dirt don't last. This one would last. Marcus walked to the bike slowly, like it might disappear if he moved too fast. He touched the handlebars. He squeezed the brakes. He ran his bandaged fingers over the frame. Then he turned around and looked at Nana Lily. "Nana, it has a water bottle holder." Lily laughed through her tears. Of all the things, the money, the vest, the shoes, the 5 years of paid rent, the thing that broke through was a water bottle holder on a bicycle. "It sure does, baby." Marcus swung his leg over the seat. It was the right height.
Someone, probably Carmen, who thought of everything, had asked Lily what size bike he'd need.
He put his feet on the pedals and pushed. The bike rolled forward across the dirt lot. Marcus wobbled once, twice, then found his balance. He pedaled harder. The wind caught his hair and pushed it back from his eyes. The new shoes gripped the pedals perfectly. The vest flapped against his back, the checkered flag's patch catching the sunlight. He rode in a wide circle around the trailer park, past all 603 vehicles, past all 603 drivers who had come to tell him he mattered. Some of them cheered, some of them clapped, some of them just watched through wet eyes as a 7-year-old boy on a blue bicycle rode circles in the dirt with the biggest smile anyone had ever seen. Sophia stood at the edge of the circle, bouncing on her good leg, waving her cast-covered arm.
Go, Marcus! Go faster!
Marcus rode past her and shouted, I'll come back for you when your leg's better. I'll teach you to ride. Promise? Promise!
He made 3 more laps before he stopped in front of Nana Lily. He was breathing hard. His cheeks were flushed. His eyes were brighter than she'd ever seen them.
Nana, I can go fast. I can go anywhere.
Lily put her hand on his cheek.
You can go anywhere, baby. Anywhere in the whole world. Rico stood behind them, watching. Wrench walked up beside him. Final count, Wrench said quietly. 603 vehicles, 7 crews. The longest drive was San Bernardino, 93 miles. The GoFundMe just passed 350,000, and the video hit 62 million views this morning. Rico nodded. He didn't care about the numbers. He cared about the boy on the bicycle. He cared about the old woman on the steps. He cared about the fact that yesterday these 2 people had been alone in the world, and today they were not. Wrench, yeah, brother? We did good today. Wrench watched Marcus teach Sophia how to ring the bicycle bell.
She couldn't ride yet, but she could ring the bell. And she rang it over and over, laughing every time.
Yeah,
Wrench said. We did good. The racers didn't leave right away. They stayed for hours. Someone brought a grill and started cooking. Someone else brought coolers of water and soda. The trailer park turned into something nobody had ever seen before. A block party thrown by the racing community for a 7-year-old boy and his grandmother. Neighbors who had lived at Riverside Mobile Home Park for years came out and joined in. Gerald sat in a lawn chair telling anyone who would listen that he'd known Marcus was special from day one. The woman from Unit 22, who had never spoken to anyone, brought out a plate of homemade cookies and set them on a table without a word. Kids from the park rode Marcus's bike in turns while he supervised, making sure everyone got equal time. Lily sat in a chair that Carmen had brought her, watching everything with an expression that was hard to read. Disbelief, maybe. Gratitude, certainly. But also something else. Something deeper. The slow, tentative realization that maybe things were going to be different now. That maybe this wasn't a dream she'd wake up from. That maybe the weight she'd been carrying for 7 years was finally being shared. Rico sat down beside her. How are you doing, Lily? I'm overwhelmed, Rico. I don't have words for what you and your people have done. You don't need words. Just promise me you'll let us keep showing up. Lily watched Marcus. He was showing Sophia how to draw a race car in the dirt with a stick. The same car he always drew. Sleek, fast, perfect lines. He draws that car every day, Lily said. Every single day. A real race car. The kind that goes fast and wins. Rico looked at the drawing in the dirt. He didn't say anything for a while. Then he pulled out his phone and took a picture of it.
Lily frowned. What are you doing? remembering. He put the phone away. Lily, that doctor's appointment on Monday, you're going, right? I said I would. Good, because Marcus told me at the hospital that you've been coughing for months. He said it keeps him up at night. Lily's jaw tightened. That boy tells everyone everything. He tells people because he's scared, Lily. Lily pressed her hand against her chest where the cough lived. I'll go, Rico. I promised him and I promised you. I'll go. Good, because that boy needs you. And we need you too. You're family now. That's not a word we use lightly. Rico stood up. He whistled sharply, and every racer in the trailer park turned to look. Mount up! We ride! The party shifted. Food got packed away. Grills got loaded onto trucks. Racers walked to their vehicles and climbed in. The engines started, one by one, building that rolling thunder sound that Marcus now recognized as something specific and meaningful. Not chaos, not noise. A heartbeat. 603 hearts beating at once. Marcus stood with Sophia, watching the racers form up. Rico lifted Sophia into his car and secured her seatbelt. See you soon, Marcus, Sophia said. See you soon, Sophia. Rico looked at Marcus. Monday after school, the garage. I want to show you something. What? You'll see. Just be there. Rico started his engine and pulled out of the trailer park. The procession followed, 2 by 2, row by row. 603 vehicles leaving Riverside Mobile Home Park and turning onto the main road. The sound faded slowly, like a storm moving away, until all that was left was the quiet hum of the new air conditioner and the birds in the scraggly tree. Marcus stood in the dirt wearing his new shoes and his leather vest, holding the handlebars of his blue bicycle, watching the last car disappear around the corner. Lily walked up behind him and put her hands on his shoulders. You okay, baby? Marcus reached up and touched the vest. The leather was warm from the sun. The patches were rough under his bandaged fingers. He could still feel the vibration of 603 engines in his chest, in his bones, in the ground beneath his new shoes. Nana, I don't think I'm invisible anymore. Lily pulled him close. No, baby. You are not invisible anymore. Monday came faster than Marcus expected. He woke up in the cool air, put on new clothes that still smelled like the store, laced up his blue and white sneakers, no cardboard, no rocks, and ate a bowl of cereal with milk that hadn't expired. Small things, things most kids never thought about. Marcus thought about every single one. A crew member's wife named Jenny drove him to school. She had 2 kids of her own in a minivan with goldfish crackers crushed into the seats.
Marcus sat in the back and stared out the window and tried to remember the last time he'd ridden in a car. He couldn't. School was different now. Not the building, not the teachers. The kids. They'd seen the video, every single one of them. Marcus walked through the front door, and a second grader he'd never spoken to ran up to him.
You're the earthquake kid. You saved that girl.
Then another kid, then 3 more, then a teacher. Then the principal, who came out of her office and knelt down and told him the whole school was proud of him. Marcus nodded and said thank you and tried not to panic. He'd spent his entire school life being invisible. Now everyone was looking at him, and he didn't know where to put his hands. At lunch, he didn't sit alone. 4 kids asked him to sit with them. He chose the table closest to the window because old habits die hard. A girl named Maya shared her chips with him. A boy named Jordan asked him if he was scared inside the building.
Yeah, Marcus said. Really scared.
But you still went in.
She was in there. What was I supposed to do?
Jordan looked at him like he'd said something extraordinary. Marcus didn't understand why. It seemed obvious to him. Someone was in trouble. You help. That's it. That's the whole thing. After school, Jenny dropped him at Velocity Motors. Rico was waiting out front, wiping his hands on a rag. Sophia sat on a stool inside the garage, her pink cast propped on a toolbox, coloring in a book.
Marcus!
She dropped her crayons and hopped over.
Look, I drew you a picture.
She held up a piece of paper. 2 stick figures, one bigger, one smaller, both wearing vests. Between them, a bicycle. Above them, a wobbly sun. At the bottom, in purple crayon,
Marcus and Sophia, best friends.
Marcus took the picture and held it carefully.
This is really good, Sophia. I know. I'm very talented.
Rico laughed. Humble, too. He put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. Come on.
Got something to show you. He led Marcus through the garage, past the lifts and the toolboxes and the rows of cars in various states of repair. Diego was under a Mustang, just his boots visible. Pete was at a workbench grinding something that threw sparks. They both nodded at Marcus as he passed. Diego called out, "Hey, little foreman!" without sliding out from under the car. Rico stopped at a door at the back of the garage. He opened it. Inside was a small room, clean, freshly painted. A desk sat against one wall with a lamp and a cup full of pencils. A bookshelf stood against the other wall, already filled. Marcus recognized some of the titles, books he'd read at the library when he was pretending not to be homeless. On the desk was a framed photograph. Marcus stepped closer. It was the picture Rico had taken on his phone at the trailer park. Marcus's drawing in the dirt. The race car with the sleek lines and perfect wheels. "What is this room?" Marcus asked. This is your room for after school. You come here, you do your homework, you read, you hang out with Sophia. When you're done, you come into the garage and I teach you how things work. Engines, tools, how to build things that last. Marcus touched the desk. He opened a drawer. Inside were notebooks, brand new, unlined and lined, a set of colored pencils, a ruler, a protractor. Rico, this is too much. No, it's not. It's exactly enough. And Marcus, look at the bookshelf. Bottom shelf, left side. Marcus crouched down. A thick book with a blue cover. Automotive Engineering for Young Minds. He pulled it out and opened it. Pages of cars, real cars, blueprints, cross-sections, engine diagrams. His eyes went wide. Carmen told me you draw race cars, Rico said. Every day, same car. So I figured maybe you should learn how to actually build one. Marcus held the book against his chest, the same way he'd held the racing jacket. The same way he held Sophia's drawing. Against his heart, where the things that mattered lived. I'm going to build a race car someday, Rico. A real one. For me and Nana. Rico smiled. His eyes were wet. I believe you, kid. I absolutely believe you. Sophia appeared in the doorway. Is he crying? Don't cry, Marcus. You can share my crayons if that helps. Marcus laughed. It came out wet and shaky, but it was a real laugh. I'm not crying. My eyes are just sweating. That's what Daddy says too, Sophia whispered loudly. It's always a lie. The weeks that followed rewrote everything. Lily saw Dr. Sarah Reeves on Monday as promised. The doctor ran tests, blood work, chest x-ray. The cough that had kept Lily up for months turned out to be walking pneumonia, treatable with antibiotics and rest. Dr. Reeves called Lily personally with the results. You're going to be fine, Mrs. Chen, but you need to rest. Actually rest, not work 2 jobs rest. I don't know how to rest. Learn. You've got people around you now who can help carry the load. Let them. Lily started the antibiotics that day. Within a week, the cough was better. Within 3 weeks, it was gone. Marcus stopped lying awake at night listening through the wall. For the first time in months, he slept through until morning. The GoFundMe closed at $412,000. Diego shut it down when donations slowed. A lawyer that Wrench knew set up the trust properly. The money would be there when Marcus turned 18. For college. For a future. For whatever he needed. Lily quit her night job. She kept the motel work because she said she wasn't the type to sit around, but she was home every evening now. She cooked dinner. Real dinner, not peanut butter sandwiches. Chicken and rice. Spaghetti with meat sauce. Things she hadn't had the time or money to make in years. Marcus ate seconds every night and started growing so fast Lily had to buy new jeans within a month. Every day after school, Jenny dropped Marcus at the garage. He did his homework in his room. He read the engineering book cover to cover twice. Then he went into the shop and Rico taught him about engines, how pistons worked, how a carburetor mixed fuel and air, how to use a wrench without stripping a bolt. Marcus absorbed everything like a sponge being held underwater. Pete gave him small jobs, sorting bolts, organizing tools, cleaning parts. He paid Marcus $5 a day and called it an apprenticeship. Marcus put every dollar in a jar in his room at the garage. When Diego asked what he was saving for, Marcus said, "Nana's birthday. I've never been able to buy her a real present." Diego walked out of the garage and sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes. When he came back, his eyes were red. Nobody mentioned it. Sophia got her cast off 6 weeks after the earthquake. Rico brought her to the garage and she ran, actually ran, both legs working, no limp, straight to Marcus and tackled him.
"I can walk. I can run. Teach me to ride the bike. You promised."
I promised. That Saturday, Marcus taught Sophia to ride in the trailer park parking lot. Rico stood 20 feet away with his phone out, filming. Sophia fell 4 times. She got up 5. On the 6th try, she pedaled the full length of the lot without falling. She threw both arms in the air and screamed, "I did it, Marcus! I did it! I told you you could do it." Rico watched them through his phone screen. 2 kids, his daughter and the boy who saved her, riding bikes in circles in a trailer park. He stopped recording and just watched. Some moments are too real for a screen. 3 months after the earthquake, a local news station ran a follow-up story. The reporter interviewed Rico at the garage. She interviewed Lily at the trailer. She interviewed Marcus at school, where his teacher told the camera that he'd gone from the quietest kid in class to the one who raised his hand first every time someone needed a partner. "He's not a different kid," the teacher said. "He's the same kid he always was. He just has room to breathe now." The reporter asked Marcus what he wanted to be when he grew up. He didn't hesitate. "An automotive engineer. I'm going to build race cars. Good ones. The kind that go fast, but keep people safe." The reporter asked if he had a message for the people who donated to his fund. Marcus thought about it for a long time. The camera waited. "I just want to say thank you. Not just for the money. For seeing me. I was invisible for a long time. Not because I was hiding, because nobody looked. And then one day I did something and everybody looked at once. But here's the thing. I didn't do anything special. I just did what I thought was right. Anybody could do that. You don't have to be big or strong or rich. You just have to show up when someone needs you." The reporter wiped her eyes off camera. The cameraman had to pause for a moment. 6 months after the earthquake, on a cold February morning, Marcus walked into the garage after school and found Rico sitting at his desk with an envelope. Rico looked different.
quiet, almost nervous. "Sit down, Marcus." Marcus sat. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Something's right." Rico slid the envelope across the desk. "Open it." Marcus opened the envelope. Inside was a photograph. A house. Not a drawing, not a sketch. A real house. Small. 1 story. Real front door with a real doorknob. A small yard. A mailbox at the curb. "What is this?" "That's the house the racing community built. Well, the crews and about 40 volunteers and a construction company that donated materials after they saw the news story. It's 3 miles from here. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, new everything." Marcus stared at the photograph. His hands were shaking. "It's yours, Marcus. Yours and Lily's. No rent, no mortgage. Yours. You built us a house? You drew race cars in the dirt every day. Sleek, fast, perfect. We just made your dreams real in a different way." Marcus pressed the photograph against his chest, the same way he'd held the engineering book, the same way he held Sophia's drawing. Against his heart, where the things that mattered lived. "Rico." "Yeah, kid." "It has a real door." Rico smiled. His eyes were wet. "Yeah, buddy. It has a real door." Marcus stood up from the chair. He walked around the desk. He wrapped his arms around Rico Martinez, the most feared street racer in California, the devoted father, the unlikely hero, and held on. "Thank you for seeing me," Marcus whispered. Rico put his arms around this boy, this small, brave, impossible boy who crawled into the dark for a stranger and drew race cars in the dirt because he believed that someday things could be different. "Thank you for being worth seeing," Rico said. That evening, Marcus rode his blue bicycle to the trailer park one last time. He parked it outside Unit 9 and walked to the spot where he used to draw in the dirt. He picked up a stick. He looked at the ground. Then he put the stick down. He didn't need to draw race cars anymore. The dream was real now. The shoes were real. The family was real. The house was real. The boy who had been invisible for 7 years was standing in the place where he used to disappear. And the whole world knew his name. Marcus Chen was 7 years old. He had a grandmother who loved him, a best friend with blonde curls and a pink cast that had come off 6 weeks ago, a racing jacket with his name stitched into it, a bicycle that flew when he pedaled, and a house with a real front door. He had crawled into the darkest place a child could go and brought someone else out alive. And in doing that, he brought himself into the light. Because that's what happens when you show up for people. They show up for you. And sometimes, if you're very lucky and very brave, the whole world shows up too. Marcus walked back to his bicycle. Lily stood in the doorway of the trailer, watching him. She smiled, the kind of smile that said everything would be okay. Not just for today, for tomorrow, for all the tomorrows to come. He rode away from the trailer park for the last time, not running from something, running toward it. Toward a life where cardboard didn't go in shoes, where air conditioning worked, where college was possible, where love didn't have limits, where being small and poor didn't make you invisible, where one act of impossible courage changed everything. Because Marcus Chen didn't save just one life that day in the rubble. He saved 2.